And this rock and roll, I guess. So we go. So here we are again, Legends in Bartending. My name's Rob Stevens, and today we have the one, the only, drum roll, Jonathan Parry. How you doing, Jonathan? All right?
Oh, I'm good, thanks, Robert. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you very much for actually agreeing to do this. So you sent me your bio, and as I said, I was absolutely blown away with the amount of stuff you've done behind the scenes. And obviously, we're gonna have some fun digging in there, and say like an ex-Haymarket bartender as well. So yes, it's going to be some good stories, I can imagine. So as we always do, we're going to start off with you joined in 2000. So at the time, the movie was Gladiator. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Number one song. Number one song was Bob the Builder. And you had Eminem with Stan and S Club 7 with Never Had a Dream Come True. So you're back in 2000. So talk me through what you was doing before TGI Fridays.
God, this is like ancient history, isn't it? Really. Before Fridays, in the 90s, I sort of cut my teeth in pubs and restaurants. So I worked. Do you remember the old Firkin chain of pubs?
Firkins, yeah.
Yeah, there was. Then the Allied Domecq had them, and they just exploded them everywhere. Like literally every pub they owned, they turned into a Firkin. And I worked at a few in Birmingham and ran the cellar. It was all real ales, traditional cask condition stuff. So you got to spend hours in the cellar looking after this beer, literally almost talking to the barrels and making sure it's brewing and fermenting properly. And it was great. It was good fun, and I worked ridiculous hours, and I loved it. And I realised this was something I just had a passion for doing. So when I wasn't in the cellar, I was on the bar selling the beer that I've been looking after. And then I went off to university, and at the same time, I was also working for a place called Via Vita in Birmingham. And this was Living Ventures operation, so Tim Bacon, Danny Fox, and it was their cash cow, if you want to call it that gave them the money to open Living Room.
Okay.
So they once Via Vita was a success, and it was a fantastic place to work. Cocktail bar, Mediterranean eclectic kind of menu. They sold it to Wolverhampton and Dudley, and then used all that big wad of cash they had to open Living Room. And we all know what a fantastic brand and success that's been over the years.
Yeah.
But Via Vita was the place where I first came across Flair bartending and first came across making cocktails, and I fell in love with it. I think it was just amazing. The culture of working there was just absorbing. It was more than just a job. You lived it. You're friends with the people you worked with, and you just had a passion to do it bigger and better all the time. I remember when I first started there, and I was trained. Doing my first day of training. You have some basic cocktails to learn on day one, and you're going to get some mistakes in there because you've never done anything like this before. And at the end of my first day of training, because I didn't get 100% in my first cocktail recipe test, I was given a forfeit to do. It just so happened, this isn't the day when you could get away with giving people forfeits to do. I'm sure in the current climate you would not be able to do that. And it was Tim Bacon happened to be visiting the store that day. So he came with the idea, me and this other guy, we would sit just outside the restaurant in Brindley Place, a busy place in Birmingham, at rush hour as everyone's coming out of the offices. And we'd sit there with our feet in a bus tub of ice, shaving each other's legs and singing The Sun Has Got His Hat On. As hundreds of people clocked out from work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I resolved at that point to never fail another recipe test again.
That is absolutely awesome, man. Did you because obviously we're going to Friday's thing anyway, but the comparison between the two drinks, like the cocktails from there and obviously the cocktails at Fridays, was there a similarity or no?
Yeah, I mean for some of the classics like your woo woos and orgasms and stuff like that are sort of staple fare wherever you go in the world. Yeah, it was pretty much identical. Measurements might be slightly out, but to all intents and purposes, they were the same. But the recipe list for Via Vita was just nowhere near the extensive one that Fridays has. I mean, Fridays, as well, when you learn that Bible of a book, there are hundreds of drinks in there, and that's just a totally different level.
So what? Because obviously you didn't go straight onto the bar at Haymarket. So two questions was like, so first of all, you went in as a dub. A big question was why. Second question, not disrespecting dubbing, because obviously you've been bartending. So like in my mind, I can imagine you went to Fridays going, I'm a bartender. That's what I do. And so why did you go to why Haymarket and not Covent Garden or somewhere else? And also why start? Did you have a goal to start as a dub and work your way up? Was that the goal?
So when I moved to London, I wanted to join Fridays and work as a bartender there. I'd met the Birmingham Fridays crew, and I'd seen Cocktail, wanted to do that, and I knew somebody who knew a manager at Haymarket.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of mates of a mates kind of connection, and the fellow was Mo Yassin, who you probably
I know Mo, Mo.
Yeah. And it was through him that I got basically interviewed into Haymarket. And when I went in, they said, okay, all right, so you've been a bartender, but we don't take bartenders off the street in this store, sorry. Yeah. We expect the creme de la creme. And, you can maybe make it onto the bar, but you're going to have to sort of prove that you're essentially a Fridays person first.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, all right, well, how do I do that? How do I get in? And I said, all right, you will be a dub. So I started, and even that was in the day when we had dub classes. So you'd have like a whole a week's worth of classroom training before you even picked up a plate in the restaurant. I mean, it's you think about the investment that went into the training Fridays back in those days. I don't know if that's how they still do it now, but it was just phenomenal, and it set you up for success because when you then hit the ground and you had your own section and you wanted to be a success, you had the tools and you were just hungry for it. And of course we had commission on sales back in those days as well. So everybody in that restaurant was a salesperson, and they would sell, the amount of side orders, the upsells, everything, and it was just more, because the more you sold, the more you made, and that restaurant made serious money.
Yeah. But even the shift meetings, I mean, I remember we had some good prizes. I remember getting the tickets for a basketball game because I won a limbo competition.
They were great fun. I mean, eventually I went into being a manager at TGI Fridays, and I used to love the shift meetings, because you just set the scene, you set the whole tone for the shift, and what you expect, what you want, and get people on the right level so that when the shift meeting ends, you have that rush, that wave of energy that reaches out into the restaurant as the new evening crew comes on, and it just has such an impact in terms of the atmosphere.
It's a dying thing as well. I mean, it's, as I said, I like to, when we do these interviews, because it's nice to recap, because we was talking, I think it was Lee Miller was talking about the importance of a bar back. And then but shift meetings were just as important. There used to be a shift meeting, not always at the end of the night, but there was one there for recognition, maybe. Yeah. There was always one, before the shift, and it was good to make sure everyone turned up. It was obviously a good start. So he gave you that if someone was running late. The fact is he just gave them them extra 5, 10, 15 minutes. But to set the tone for the shift as well, what you wanted to sell, what you wanted to, what you wanted to get from that shift. I mean, it was just one of them ones where, bring it back, because
in terms of an information cascade, there's no better. I mean, these days you'd probably do it with the WhatsApp group, but then there's no guarantee that somebody's necessarily read it or understands it. And that first personal face-to-face bit is so important.
And you feed off that enthusiasm as well, don't you? You actually go, this is going to be fun today, and this is going to be such a good laugh.
Well, I used to liken it to like one of those sort of wind-up toys, right? So you get the whole shift there. Sometimes you'd even have back of house involved as well, right? And that was great. You'd have the back of house shift meet and the front of house shift meet all together. You wind it all up, and then you go and just let them go, right? And that wave of energy then hits the restaurant, and the customers all feel it, and it just really lifts it and sets the scene for what you want for your shift. I mean, I used to do when I was a manager at Covent Garden. I used to consistently do this Saturday night dance night. And it was a game I used to play with the team there. And I'd say, right, Whitney Houston, I want to dance with somebody. When that song comes on, and I'd put it in the playlist at various points, you need to get one of your customers from the table, get them up to the bar, and get them dancing. And it's like a knockout competition. So the last double bartender there with somebody dancing by the end of the night, they get the prize. And it was just crazy. People would be halfway through taking an order or making a drink, and they literally dragged people out of the seats, take them up to the bar, and everybody else in the restaurant's like, what's going on here? This is crazy. It's different, but that was Friday, right? So was open, and you have that welcome and the balloon arch. You've got to be bigger, better, and more in your face, and that's the kind of thing that we used to do.
Yeah. So why Haymarket and not the Garden or somewhere else?
Well, it's a connection with Mo Yassin. So Mo was the fellow that I knew through a partner, and so at that point there was no real question. It was that was the store, and then once I got into Haymarket, there was this this rivalry between Haymarket and Covent Garden, and it was kind of like bubbling underneath, and it was silly, really. But because it was such a competitive environment, even within the store, that when you've got it across the 5 minutes walk away across the centre of the West End of London, it's even more so. And we'd have, you'd have nights out on Fridays, and the neighbouring store would cover the restaurant so that everybody could go out. Front house, back house, everyone gets to go out. And then we used to have this sort of tradition where a piece of the elegant clutter would disappear and go walk its way across the other side of town. And you join the next morning, you're like, where's the trophy gone? Or who's got the feather? And then you have to go and try and find it in the other store. And then when we covered them, of course, you try and steal like a bear or whatever it was you could literally carry across the other way.
And it's hide and seek, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like an ongoing kind of thing over the years, but it was kind of fun, and it added to the whole atmosphere that we had at the time. But when I went on to be head bartender at Haymarket, the head bartender at Covent Garden at the time was Ed Fellows, and he's absolutely top guy, really, really down to earth, and we always had this rivalry between the two bar teams. And you can never get rid of it, and you wouldn't want to in a certain degree because you could use that in terms of driving the team forward. But you didn't ever want it to get into sort of animosity kind of thing. And I remember, we'd do a stock take. Friday mornings, I think it was. Friday morning, you do a stock take, and then I'd either walk over to Covent Garden, or Ed would come over to me, whoever finished first, and we sit down and have a chat. And we had a really good kind of like little working relationship going, and we'd have had advice as to what problems we've got or what we can help each other out with, and then we sort of depart, and it was like that was like a truce kind of thing. Back to the team, we were like, death to Covent Garden kind of thing.
Did you do any pranks on each other on the bars and stuff like that?
Not on the bartender or the bartending team. I think there was maybe a bit more sort of respect to the team from that instance, but onto each other within your own team, anything goes, right? I mean, I remember one time, poor Parry Haldenby had, what a nice guy, like totally, really down to earth, nice guy, and he was the unfortunate fellow who was opening up on like a Sunday morning or something, and he
used to fall asleep downstairs sometimes.
The stockroom door, and he's there on the floor, so. But he his bus was late, the train was late, he was really up against it. And the night before, we'd played a prank, and we got the cling film, and we cling filmed literally everything on the bar, blender cups, even around the outside of the four posts of the bar and the swing gate. So you didn't get into the bar. How did we get away with wasting such an incredible amount of things? It was just, nobody went, that's really bad. They were just like, And yeah, he had to fight his way through cling film and unwrap all this stuff before he could even like get ice into the ice wells. So we used to do that kind of stuff to your own team all the time.
So who trained you to be a dub? Do you remember that far?
Yeah, so that was Steve Clark and Angela Mann.
Because some of the dubs back, I mean, we talk about bartenders, but there was some, like, as you said, they were like salespeople, and some of the dubs. I mean, I remember in Lakeside. I mean, the uniform standards was so high. If you didn't have shiny shoes, you were sent home. It was that simple.
I remember with the uniform, like I was like almost religious in terms of getting my uniform ready. I ironed everything, and I folded my shirt in a certain way, and I have you fold my apron a certain way and get it all in my bag, nice and neat, and make sure that it was properly presented. And it's back in the day of braces. And you had to have the minimum number of badges on the braces. And when I finally moved on to the bar, I think it was Andy Perkins that said,
"Oh, beautiful."
Yeah. A good friend of yours. I think I was coming onto the bar. I was like, "Right, Jono, right, stop your braces." Yeah.
Good impersonation as well there.
Yeah, I've been working on it. You can, okay. It's all very well being a dub and having all this teddies and shit on your braces, but we don't do that at the bar.
I'll tell you what, as well,
You gotta lose them.
I will mention him a little bit further down in the conversation, but Jamie Lehane.
Yeah, Jamie trained me as a bartender. Yeah.
He was label machine. He would label everything from.
And he infected me with a love of bar schematics, like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I was like his protege in that, And there was we spent a number of nights, like all nights. We finished a shift, and a menu change coming up, and me and him would then literally work our way through the menu. We would putting things together beforehand and re-schematic the bar, and there was nothing quite like changing the speed rails and optimizing it to be more efficient and to work for the menu and the drinks that you're going to sell. And we'd strip and clean the bar, we'd put new labels on the little Dymo printer and then seal it all in. It was a work of art, which the customer would never even notice or have any comprehension of. But for us, that was just like, and then I
just felt he walked around with the labeling machine.
Yeah, well, he infected me with this. I've still got, I've probably put my hand on the label printer right now. That was back from those days. But it was, everything in its place. Place of everything in its place, and that was necessary for you to be efficient and work in that well-oiled machine that Haymarket was. The service bar, I mean, you've worked at the service bar. It's a box, not just like my office that I'm in right now. You can literally stand there and with your without moving your feet, touch God knows how many bottles, double rail at your knees, and you got to a peak efficiency where you wouldn't even look and you were just grabbing a bottle. You didn't know, you didn't use your eyes. You grab the bottles and you're making the drinks. And for me, the service bar was like a challenge. I really enjoyed that Saturday night service bar. That was the goal time for Saturday night service. I mean, Saturday day service bar was different because you had more milkshakes and an unbelievable amount of prep that you still had to do whilst being really, really busy. But Saturday night service bar was the pinnacle. And 6, 7, 8 grams worth of liquor sales, and you pray that nobody drops a rack of ultimate glasses. You hear that crash through the shutter, you're like, please, tell me that wasn't ultimates, because as soon as you start running low on notice, then you're like,
the funny thing is, I always remember like the iced tea container. Like it used to be 140 tea bags and boiling water to do like 5 gallons of iced tea, and the container was black, tea stained,
stained to completion.
Well, you couldn't clean it because it'll take away the flavour.
It's like a wok.
Exactly. So you obviously being a dub, you're on good salary. So was it at some stage in the back of your mind going, do I want to take that leap to the bar because of money? No hesitation.
I was a shift leader at Haymarket, and at every stage in the career, especially in terms of Friday, it was like, okay, how do I get to the next level? So I had like a week of being a door host before they even had the dub class. And in that first week, I thought about quitting.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I don't, this isn't, waiting, sitting people at tables, I'm not enjoying this. No, but this is just a waiting game to the dub class. And then started waiting tables, and it was a dub, and it was like, right, you got 18, you got 21 people on shift. That's it. It's like,
that is mad.
Huge number of people working. And so it was so regimented. You had your manager, you had your shift leader, you had your co-shifties, and you had your 3 different areas of the restaurant. So you'd have an area. You reported to somebody. It was like it's the
army.
But it needed to be with that many people.
Yeah.
But so I was like, okay, right. So I need to be good at my job, and these guys are going to keep me in check. Fine. How do I get to the next level? So it's like, right, I want to be a co-shifty, so I'm going to bust a gut and get to be co-shifty on salads or whatever sort of part of the restaurant was. And I remember that being a big deal for us. Like, oh my God, after a week or so of waiting, I got a co-shifty. I was like, that's brilliant. What do I do? All right. Okay. And then I worked up to be a shift leader. Like, okay, I need to be shift leader. Then it's like, I need to be like best of the best. I need to be doing the Saturdays shift leading. And it's like, right, okay. Now I'm there. I'm top sales. I'm top shift leader. Right. I want a space on the bar. As soon as there's one available, you let me in. And that's how I then finally got into the bar. But it was people like sort of as I came onto the bar, you had a sort of a rearguard action. There's sort of a lot of big personalities leaving the bar. So Andy Perkins, you got Ashley Moore, Alex Bamberg, all these sort of giants that had been around for a while were sort of exiting, and it was almost like a sort of new generation of bartenders were starting in Haymarket.
Because in year 2000, Becky Sturt won the UK's. So she's Haymarket, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. She was there when she won when I first started at Haymarket.
I remember it well.
You think back over the years about people's interactions, and I didn't really know a huge amount about the bartender challenge or anything like that when I first started, right? I think the first one I went to, I was actually competing as best newcomer. That was my first experience was literally walking on the bar to do a front bar routine, going, what the hell is this? But prior to that, I mean, you'd been at Haymarket, and I remember bringing up one of the years when you didn't win. And I think you come second. Was that when you were at Haymarket?
I came second. I came second at Haymarket as well. I came second at Lakeside.
It's a great result. Well done, came second. And the look on your face was like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Do you know what? Like, I remember coming second so many times, and it was like, I just remembered somebody, actually, a guy called, who actually said this to me, and it really, really sunk in, because I was in the UK final, and obviously you want to win and everything else, and a guy called Andy Joyce, he was, I just came second, and I was like, really, really down, and he was like, Rob, yeah, it's number 2 in the country, and then it dawned on me that was really, really an amazing achievement. Yeah. That, okay, yeah, you aim for number 1 position and everything else, but even to come second, every single bartender in the UK, if you're not happy with that, then you're an idiot, because you should be like even getting to the finals to be in the top UK 6 and when you over the years look back on the names that are in the final, you start realizing that you're part of an elite team of amazing guys that do go on to do great things. I mean, my first UK final, Danny Harris is in it, and you end up just thinking, this is the guy that when you joined, he's on the videos and everything else. And he's just
2 years in a row, for God's sake,
Exactly, and it's just one of these ones where you cannot help but go, just to inspire to be that good. And if anything, it's the people around you that push you a little bit further. And again, as I said, you know, you just come back stronger next year, or you know, you just work on your weaknesses and things like that. So, but yeah, no regrets at all. And I think I ended up needing somebody to do that and say, snap out of it. You know, what you've achieved is amazing, and you should be very proud of what
get
you've
into
done.
you said get into the final, get in the national final. That's
Yeah.
a massive achievement when you think of the pyramid of people that you've had to beat and get through up to that point. And when I got to the final in 2004, I mean, I didn't even win my store. I didn't make it. You know, I made it through as in the wild card. And look, right. So yeah, I didn't win my store. I didn't make it through the regional. I got through the wild card final, which was held in Solihull, I think it was. But I was, you know, in that wild card final. Tony Adams was in there with me. Chris Skelton from my store, Rob Champion, Mark Barron. I mean, like any one of these bartenders was like top of the game. They're all great bartenders. And so, and Scooby, David Sangwell was in that final as well. You know, you think a litany of great bartenders. And you know, so I won the wild card final. I was like, okay, right. So now I'm in the national final. But that, you know, in all honesty, and this is going to sound really weird, you know, winning the UK Best Bartender wasn't the goal. For me, the goal was Best Bar Team. And that is what I drove the Haymarket team towards. And because they all felt for, you know, they missed out a number of times and it was all political in terms of decision making. It took a lot of personal capital to get the team on board to give it another try.
Yeah.
And we all got on the same page and we all really went for it, like massively. And it was like, okay, right, Tony, you're going for Flair. Tom Mountain, you're going for Best Bartender. Rick, you're going for Best Newcomer. Everybody else, right, you've got to do your bit, right, in terms of your tests, in terms of the stock, all of these things to make sure that we get there. And then when it came to it, you know, and then I got through to the national final, like, oh, okay, I'm here now. And that last week, and I, you know, I was still thinking, well, this is Tom's. And that last week, I thought, actually, well, I'm here. How many times am I going to be here? Right? This might be my only opportunity to be in the UK national final. It turns out it was. So I'm just going to go for it, right? And I worked my socks off in terms of getting my routine as polished as I could be, in terms of practicing my recipes and my pouring. I used to get night bus home with Tony Adams, right, absolute legend. And we'd get the night bus home, and we'd be on the bus, and we'd be just testing each other on the night bus home on an hour-long night bus jet. Who does that? Right? The passion and the belief and the willingness to be better at what you do. And we'd have Jamie Lahane, you know, God bless his soul. He would say things like, you know, he'd go, I'm thinking about a drink with this, and we'd literally be the first person to try and get it right. This is how we socialise. I mean,
you know what? It's like when you talk about Jamie and stuff, I end up like, I just remember being on service bar and he used to stand behind me and go, weeds. and you know what? He always had this cheeky smile on his face, always like
you get away with it.
Seemed to be up to something and everything else, and because he used to like
that when he'd like maybe move the bowls around in the speed rail when you wouldn't realise.
And he'd just be like sitting there like going like
waiting for you to realise you poured blue curacao into like a FBI or something.
But yeah, just in case people are listening to this anyway, Jamie used to be on Grange Hill. And he used to hate that, didn't he? He used to be Jacko.
People would recognise him and would come up to the bar going, I know you from somewhere. And he'd be like, Crime Watch.
And he hated it. And I just know what? I ended up just thinking, you know, just because I obviously grew up watching Grange Hill. And I didn't really realise at all, you know, it didn't click with me. But I just had that familiarity that you've known him from something. And but his character and he was just so nice and warm to me, and we were just he made it such a pleasure to work at Haymarket. It was a laugh every minute, and as I said, like
really funny guy, and you know, so it's so sad that he's not with us anymore.
No.
But he really, you know, was a pleasure to work with, and somebody who gave me such great training and foundation in what I went to achieve with Fridays, that I'll always be grateful and thankful for that.
Yeah. But also, like, I mean, obviously, there's a lot to say about mental health, and people do need to start talking and start getting. I mean, things like this is good if you just talk it out. You know, it's the last. I'm sure. I mean, he was such a bubbly guy and an amazing guy to work with, and just a fun person as well.
Yeah.
He's not one of those people that you look at and you go, "Oh, this guy's, you know, he's depressed and all this stuff." This guy was bubbly, funny. Made me laugh every shift I worked with.
But I mean, similarly, you know, the same can be said about Mickey Mazziero, who also worked with us at the same time, same bar team, and also had, you know, demons of his own, which, you know, again, such a passionate person about what he did. Like, it was infectious. Being around people like that, you couldn't help but get sucked into it and want to be better, and it was a camaraderie like no other kind of role or job.
So when you got onto the bar, who actually trained you as a bartender? Jamie did.
My trainer, yeah. You always have a bond with your trainer, right? Especially when it's such intensive training like that, and one-to-one training. And it's a day one training, but you think smoothies and flings. So I remember I said I'm not getting another test wrong, right? So I kept that promise. And at the end of the shift, it was like, right, okay, so we're done. I'm going home. He's like, no, you haven't finished the training yet. So right, what do you mean? It's like, we're going to Covent Garden. So we went over to Covent Garden, and Danny Harris was behind the bar. And as soon as he's like, right, you need to now understand how the other side of bartending works. and yeah, the rest of the night was fairly blurry. But and that was it. You know, you work your socks off and you party hard, and you repeat until you can't do it anymore. And Jamie's professionalism and knowledge was just in depth, and I realised that this is what I want to do. You know, I want to get there. I want to have that. So like I said, when I was a dub, it's like, how do we get to the next level? So when I became a bartender, it was like, right, I'm the new guy in the block. I'm the Joey. I'm going to be working on coffee forever, side 4. I'm going to get Monday daytime service bars. That all sucks. I'm going to be better. I'm going to improve. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do a good job. And so you just put your nose to the
Did you find that being a dub helped you on the bar, understanding the menu more?
Yeah, in terms, I knew the food menu inside out, which was a great impact in terms of trying to upsell food for sure. Yeah. I think my food sales probably were noticeably more than some of the bartenders at that point. But it was it gives you confidence that, okay, I learned all this, you know, I know, and that seemed really daunting at the time, so I can learn all these, and you move from, you know, bartender to certified bartender to, and then you're 100 club. Okay, 100, and that at the time, 100 clubs seemed like this huge mountain to scale, and it was, you know, because everything is relative. You know, when you sort of, you know, eyes open to what you don't know, and you see how big it is, it can be daunting, it can be a little bit overwhelmed. But once I'd done the 100 club, there was no question that I wanted to know everything in that book. Yeah, it whet some kind of appetite. And I remember I'd be in the garden, like flaring, practicing in the sunshine, and I'd be having my flatmates sort of question me on recipes and procedures and things while I'm flaring. So it's sort of, you know, your hands are doing stuff, so you're practicing, but you're also, you know, charging your mind, and then going to the evening shift and work. Like the dedication that people put in to be better at their job and not be paid for all that training. I've never known an industry or a job like it.
Was your flatmates Fridays people, or they?
Everybody lived with Fridays people. I mean, it was different people at different times. But yeah, well, I lived with Fridays people most of the time. I lived in London at one point with my good friend Tom Lambert, who unfortunately also isn't with us anymore. and that, it just kind of makes you look back and think, so many good people that you've known along the way that have now fallen. But you also makes you want to cherish those relationships that you've had, that you do still have, and the people that are there, and opportunities to see them. And I think with the pandemic over the past year, it's really made me look forward to opportunities to catch up with people more than I have for a very long time.
Just enjoy the day as well. Just enjoy the moment as well with them 100%. As well. So the biggest thing was because you've done your 100th and your masters in 2003 and 2004. So because I was just actually thinking when you were talking about the food and stuff, because I found out that like when I was doing the competitions, because we used to be tested on the food as well, and a lot of bartenders would be like, I don't want to know what's in like a freaking chimichanga or whatever thing is. But to
maybe 8 different beans in a chimichanga.
But to me, that's my extra points. Every time someone was like thinking like that, I was going, do you know what? It's an extra 10, 20 points. So I need to get them points where they matter. So I would study the food as much as the cocktails, because I knew that's an extra point here and there. And
I totally agree. And I think the way I approached the bartending challenge was, how do I win this competition? It's a competition, right? So whilst I won best bartender, I would never say that I was the best bartender that I worked with. There's a whole raft of people I would say are better bartenders than I was, but I worked out how to win that competition. Not that I gained it, but okay, it's a competition. Any competition you're in, what are the rules? What are the regs? What are the expectations? How do you get the points? And when you max out on those things, and that's how I did it, right? And I also, I had a hand in training or developing or coaching, other winners for newcomer or for best bartender, and therefore, I knew what I was talking about. But I wasn't the best bartender. The bartenders who did things far better than me. Tony Adams, for me, is probably the most complete bartender that I've had the pleasure to work on bar with. Tom Mounty was one of the most fun and energetic people to share a shift with. Sylvia Armando was like just oozed passion with everything she did. You got Ugo Balan. I know there are some fantastic Flairs out there, but the ones that I worked with on shift, nobody was more creative than this guy in terms of what he would try and do and how he would try and push himself and the hours he would put into practicing in the Flair room. And they, all these people were better than me in the things that they did. But I was head bartender at Haymarket, and I drew lots of things together, and I drove that team forward to be, what I consider the best team that I've ever worked with. That team was just phenomenal. Because
when you mentioned about passion was to being about winning best bar team, I remember like being number one at Lakeside was really, really good at the time, because he was building up to it. But when I became number one at Haymarket, it was I can't even explain it. It was just like it was like I'm one of the big boys now. Do you know what I mean? It's like even the UK didn't even like winning. The UK didn't even match winning Haymarket for some reason. I felt because the competition around me was more fierce in the one store. Then when you do a competition, you're representing that. I think it's like when you become a master bartender as well. You can't have a bad day because people will be there to go, where's your pour test? Where's this? Where's that? Yeah. Why have you done this? Why have you not checked the bar out? Why have you not done this? Did you make that drink right or wrong? So you constantly, when you put the blue cap on, you always being judged from the minute you walk in, your uniform standards, the way everyone's looking at you and ask for their support. So again, on that note, when you became, what did it feel like for you when you became a master bartender?
Oh, it was great. I mean, the amount of work and effort that went into it. The tests themselves, but the pressure that you feel, like I went over to Covent Garden to do the service bar testing. It's in a bar that you don't know. and a ticket of drinks that you're probably never going to make again.
Yeah.
And somebody there with a clipboard and a stopwatch. And things like that were just a phenomenal amount of pressure. And it wasn't like because you were going to be the best bartender in that sense. This was you against you. You weren't competing against anybody else. It's how good can you be in this moment? Can you take the pressure? And to know that, I think it was Graham McDonald that was in charge of the Master Bartender program when I passed, and he certified me. I almost didn't believe him. I was like, yeah, but I don't think I did very well. I was so critical of what I did. This wasn't right or that. He was like, no, you've met the standard. You've passed. This is your hat. This is yours. And that was just like, wow. Just an amazing feeling. And then I've always had a passion about training and developing people. I wanted to help other people do that. I wanted to help other bartenders be better at what they did. I got such fulfillment out of myself. I wanted to help others. So I went on, I trained God knows how many bartenders within Haymarket itself, but also going around the country, opening new stores, doing the step change reopenings, and trying to help bartenders be better at what they did, because I got such a kick out of it.
Did you have like a set way of doing things to train the bartender to inject that kind of enthusiasm, or did this just come the way through you?
Looking back, I mean, there was certain, you'd have a setup of how you would go about your normal training in terms of a structure, but you would tailor it to the individual. But you wouldn't know how you were going to tailor it until you spent some time with them. Because you're both learning off each other. They're learning, absorbing knowledge, passion from you, but you're also working out what kind of learner are they? What kind of learning style have they got? How do you need to change your trainer style to help them? Do they need book learning? Do they need practical learning? Are they a sort of
so you treat
watch the trainer before they do it themselves? And you just got to adapt your training as much as you can
to the individual person.
Yeah.
So going through your find your thing. Here you go. So I think we covered most of the stuff. You joined in 2000. You left in 2007. Obviously, you did your masters in 2003, 2004. UK opening team in 2004. So you done Bath, Fulham, Broadway, and Poole. And
probably not a great list, really. I don't think any of those stores are still there.
Yeah, no, but it was like a refurb. So what was the refurb all about? Was it just like taking down clutter and?
No. So there was a physical element to the step change program that customers would see. Really noticeable on the bar because you lost your corner pillars and the back bar was significantly changed. The tills moved from the back bar to the front bar, so you were always facing the customer. Some real noticeable physical changes to the setup of the bar, and the uniform change. Obviously, bartenders lost the braces, so they were very happy about that. But there was a lot more to it. The step change program was about revisiting standards of service, making sure that people were really buying into a new sort of enthusiasm for what they did in terms of customer service. We used things like fish, which is a great sort of philosophy in terms of customer service, choosing your own attitude and making a positive difference every day. Those things are still things that I would use when I'm training teams.
I remember when fish came out, and there was a video done with enthusiasm, and someone at head office forgot to pick up the videotape. This is how old this is. Videotape. So they paid someone to go across London on a cab. I think it cost like 50, 60 quid to pick up this videotape, to get this videotape from A to B. And if you ever watched the video, you'd be like, that's not worth 50, 60
Yeah, it wasn't that long, really, was it?
No, it wasn't.
The journey would have been longer than the video itself. But it was, the philosophy behind it was really, really good, and that was part of the step change process. I think when we had ours at Haymarket, there was an element of trying to, build the team together. So this was before I took over the bar. Parry was in charge at the time, and Graham McDonald was doing the step change. I know he found it quite intimidating coming across from Covent Garden, and the teaching the Haymarket team to suck eggs, apparently, especially, essentially. And I can get that. You feel a bit of trepidation about that because of that rivalry talked about earlier. But he also gave us, which was a great idea. He gave us opportunity to incorporate things into our training experience that would benefit us. So we actually arranged to go down to the Savoy Hotel and have some times with Peter Dorelli, fantastic mixologist in the bar there. And that was a time when Fridays was getting a little bit more mixo in terms of the drinks that were coming in. So we were bringing in, caipirinhas and mojitos.
On that note, I just want to actually, because you know what, them pictures were brilliant that you sent over, and because I always like to, if I remember something or see something, and what you just mentioned, I want to pull up on that one as well, because that was the time where they put on the island, the top of the bar, they had the circular thing going. Mixology Drinks. I can't remember what went all the way around it, but it was like that's the thing they ended up putting onto Fridays, wasn't it, at that time?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it
was really good for us to go and spend some time with him, because it was another element. It was totally off piste in terms of the training plan, but it was something that we all absorbed. This guy was such an absorbing character, so charismatic. Been working in this bar in the Savoy for like 50 years or something, and it was we walked away from it just energized and wanting to be to get out there and make those drinks. And now, unfortunately, Fridays went a bit mixo and then messed it up. The original recipe for things like mojitos with cubed ice, and I had this ongoing battle. The battle between me and the team and me and my conscience, because the recipe says cubed ice. And everybody's making it with crushed ice, and it should be made with crushed ice, but the recipe says cubed ice. And you've got standards in Fridays. You go into one Fridays, you order something, it should be the same as what you get in any TGI Fridays. So if you're not making it right in your store, then somebody goes into another store and makes it right. That bartender gets it in the neck, even though they've made it correctly. And this was a real dichotomy, a real sort of challenge for me. So when I then, took over the Master Bartender program and then got into a position of redeveloping the recipe manual itself, the first thing on my list was correcting those recipes so that I could then put my conscience to bed and go, yeah, guys, this is how it should be made, and you're doing it correct to spec. Because it was a real battle.
So on the original manual, it was made with cubed ice.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but
cool.
Most bartenders were making it with crushed ice because that's the right recipe and much better drink. But it wasn't standard.
So let's talk about
something about standards. You've got to adhere to the right standards.
So let's talk about this. So when I had Tony on, obviously he had the Sandy Mo. So how did it come about? Because obviously your one was, tell me a little bit more about drinks. Your Johnny O, yeah. So
Johnny O was named after me.
Okay.
Yuri Lugaboy, bless him. And I think Tony told you about the story of back of house manager who, Medike, who used to say instead of John O, it'd be a Johnny O, and it kind of stuck. And that was Yuri's drink. Mine was Tennessee Runway, so I'm a bourbon fan, and I like bourbon and apple juice, really great. It has the dryness, really complements the bourbon. And I added, I think it was vanilla and Red Bull to it, and that was my drink. But when I redeveloped the menu, I said to the guys in Haymarket, right, we didn't win the best bar team, right? So but we can still make a lasting impact on that book. So get some recipes together because I'm putting them in.
How many drinks average did the Haymarket participate in the manual? Everyone had one.
No, I don't think everybody did in the end. I think there's half a dozen. So there was Fiesta Havana, Johnny O, Sandy Mo, Tennessee Runway, Haymarket, that was Sylvia's.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones that stick in my head.
The good thing is though that all of the drinks are not bad.
Yeah, they're all right actually. Yeah, and they're all really different in terms of they're all, they completely.
You don't go through them and go like you can have mixology competitions and they don't come out this good. They're good. They were really, really good. So I mean as I say at the time, I think it was Blavod came out with doing loads of different drinks as well at that time, around about that era and everything else. So what can you honestly say are your strengths and weaknesses did you have through your training and stuff?
So, I was very professional about, the job itself. I mean, when I wasn't on duty, then yes, I was like a hellraiser. But on shift, on the bar, I was super professional, which is something that I, as a dub, I maybe wasn't as such. We won't go too much into that. But the organisation, the standards. There's one guy I worked with who used to be a barback for me and went on to be a bartender, Kestas. And he actually sent me a message a few weeks back. And he said, I was just talking about you the other day. I was like, well, I haven't spoken to you in years. So I was talking to this guy. It's not that flattering. So I was talking to this guy. And he said, I was explaining to him about this head bartender we had who's so anal about the cleanliness of blender bases, you would not believe. And it made me think, when I opened the team in Bath and trained them there, they coined a phrase of like there's anal and there's jonal, which is like you think you've cleaned it and you've got it right, and then John will come along and he'll go, what about that? What about this? What about that? And that all stems back to my days at Via Vita, where there was the head bartender there, and her name was Dorinda Harvey, and we'd finished the shift. And you'd cleaned your station, and she would come round and she would be like literally white gloves and reaching into places you couldn't even get to. And no, it's sticky here, you haven't cleaned that. And it'd be an extra half an hour to get it right. And so I think I blame her for my insistence on standards and cleanliness and hygiene. But in a team, for the team to work, you've got to have lots of different people with different strengths. And we had flairers, we had cheeky bartenders, we had people who were workhorses, picked all the shifts. We had all these different things, and you need somebody just to push you. Bring them together and lead them in the right direction.
I think as well, I think when you find fault with things, you can improve. If you turn around and you go, "Oh, everything's perfect," then I think that's when you start going downhill.
Because... Fridays had a theory about that, didn't they? In terms of, what was it called? Where you become so good at something, you expect that you're always going to be good at it. You stop pushing yourself, and your standards slip. And you've got to always keep revisiting that and making sure that you are, being the best that you can be. So
what is the funniest story you can think of in Haymarket or whatever thing you've done?
In what sense? Funny?
Like I don't know, the thing that basically you've just gone, like whether you've worked with a colleague or you've done something or you've played a prank on someone. What's the fight, or even something you've witnessed in Haymarket from like a guest walking in or something like that? Was there anything?
We had loads of celebs would come into a place like that. You just off Leicester Square, and they'd be enlarging up. I mean, I think the West Ham team used to be in all the time, and Teddy Sheringham was there, and they'd have ultimate June bugs because it was big, it was gaudy, and it was like, look at me drink. Yeah. But the pranks and things we pulled were probably more as a dub, because you had a bit more leeway to get away with stuff. And we once, my friend Tom Lambert, he made a human pyramid at the foot of the stairs, where you open the doors to go into the restaurant, and he got a table of guys that he had, like 6 of them, and built a human pyramid. They're on their hands and knees, like 3, then 2, then 1, and him on the top. I've got a photo of that somewhere. And like that was just the crazy shit we got up to, and because it was Fridays. Have you ever watched that film, Waiting?
Yeah,
with Ryan Reynolds, right? In a restaurant called Shenanigans, right? Whoever did the script for that film worked at TGI,
Yeah.
right? And it's almost like they worked with me at Haymarket, because any of those stories in that, literally any of them, I lived it more than once, and that was
scary.
Scary. Brilliant.
So actually, I mean, because I will forget to say this at some stage, so I thought I'll just get it out there as well. So when Haymarket closed down, how did you feel? Was it like an end of an era kind of thing?
Yeah, well, it's gutting really, because I had a lot of memories in that place, and I lost a lot of memories in that place as well. And it was a real shame to know that when I take my family to London, I can't walk past it anymore and take them in. I took my son there. He was probably 3 or 4, so maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I went in, and I think Big Derek Wheatle was there, and somebody else, and they said, like, do you want to go on the bar? And I got to take my son on the bar at Haymarket briefly, but it was, it held such an important place in terms of memories and in terms of what I did in my 20s, that it's a real shame to know it's not there. It was a fantastic place to work, and a huge moneymaker. But unfortunately, times move on. They opened a new one 100 metres away in Leicester Square, and I guess the financial situation for the Haymarket store was. I
feel like, I mean, I can honestly say that the time I had in Haymarket was the toughest and probably one of the most memorable things I've ever achieved. As I said, I've never known how much to prep. It was just ridiculous how much prep was involved, and the money that was going over the bar, and how to do it. But it created a different type of bartender. You talk to Rob Gilks, and he's like very much like a bar challenge should be an actual bar competition. So you actually go and see these guys work in a busy environment, because if you're not doing a $5,000 service bar or work in the front bar doing $2,500, on point, then you can't really say that you're a professional barman, because there's a different type of bartending. It is literally, and Flair as well.
The pinnacle for me, like I mentioned earlier about like that Saturday night service bar doing $8,000 or something. That for me, the challenge of that ticket machine was a real rush. Crank up the trance techno and just rush out the drinks. But I worked with some fantastic bartenders, and you go in there any Friday, Saturday night, the place was pumping, right? Absolutely pumping. And the New Year's Eve Master Bartender shift I did with Tony, with Tom, and with Jamie was like, you looked around and you're like, these are, I'm working with 3 guys who are the top of their game, in a venue that is at the top of its game, and it doesn't get much better than that. it really doesn't.
But the layout of Haymarket was incredible as well, because the bar was put on a pinnacle. It was like raised, so you could see and it had that kind of like, I'm not sure how many seatings. It was still 250 seating or something like that. But when you, from the bar itself, when you looked out, it looked like a 150. It really looked so like the bar was the entire restaurant. It had that kind of
the centerpiece, and I think as a bartender working at the bar, you felt like you were, the showpiece, and you lived up to it. When you did like orgasms in the bar or flaming Lamborghinis, and you're ringing that bell, and people, they were watching you, right? Sitting there eating their food, and they've got a mouthful of, a free-for-all, but their eyes are on you, and what on earth is going on in that bar, right? And we would be, 2, 3, 4 deep around that bar, and some of those people would just wait for tables, but in the end they'd stay at the bar, because they're having such fun.
And so I remember my first, I think my first week at Haymarket, I was written up twice in my first week. One was because I was late, because in Lakeside we started at 10 o'clock. And in Haymarket, you start at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and so
I got written up, but they were so like, they there was no leeway. I was written up. And the second one was funny because I needed a till to go. I needed a float for the till.
Yeah.
And so I asked this guy who I thought was a manager to go and get me a till. And he wasn't a manager, he was a kitchen guy. And he went in the safe and he pulled out a till. And gone like, did you ask the kitchen guy to go and get a till? And I went, oh, I thought he was a manager. And they wrote me up on it. I was like, I got written up for someone. I got to admit, it was wrong at the time, but
I can't believe you got written up. You were such a squeaky clean bartender.
yeah, it all got good from there as well. So it was that was my first week at Haymarket.
First one, week one. They were setting the bar very high for you. I got away with a lot more than that.
But I wanted to leave in my first few weeks because I was like, I didn't think I could hack it because I couldn't understand how to. Because in lakeside bartending was like everything was done, everything. Glasses were clean, prep was done before the doors opened. So I tried to do that when I went to Haymarket, and it was physically impossible. I would have to get there 6 a.m. to be able to pull that off. I was like, it was just unheard of.
The prep, just the service bartender and the prep they would have to do with the fruit cooking was just incredible. And we actually sort of we begged the management in there to get us a fruit cutter, the sectionizer, and it made such a difference to our lives when this piece of plastic arrived that could cut lemons and limes. Like you get through your 6 big ice cream tubs of fruit in a few minutes, whereas that would be taking you hours of chopping, whilst also making milkshakes and ultimate cocktails and God knows what. It was just a game changer for us, this piece of kit. But I remember Tom Mountain at one point. He'd done his prep. And I'd come into the bar and checking out what he needed to do. And he'd written on there lime wedges and the date and everything. Kind of like, these aren't lime wedges, mate. Sorry, these are lime squeezes. Lime wedges when you put a slice into them. and because the stubbornness that comes in. I remember him we had a little bit of a tete-a-tete about it, and I think Jamie was there in the background sort of needling both of us.
Yeah.
But in the end, he took this whole box of fruit, threw it in the bin, and chopped it again, rather than change the label. It's just, bonkers, the level that he went to. But that was brilliant. Just the way it was.
So you didn't really enter any Flair competitions. I mean, what did you? In my head, I remember seeing the person I used to look up to was Lee Miller when I joined, and because he was clean cut, his flair, although his flair was really really good, his flair was very very smooth. So my idea of a master bartender was someone that had loads of knowledge. But when he flared, it was all crisp. It was nice, clean cuts. It was just nice to watch, and it was not too much. It was not too little. It was a very well balanced. Did you style your flair, or your you're saying not your flair, your bartending ability like that?
Yeah, I mean, of course I flared. Well, I liked working flair. I like to be efficient. To entertain, but be efficient. And you put somebody on point and let them be the show pony and let them wow the crowd, and you can do your bit whilst being efficient and keeping things moving. So I was never the greatest flair, and there'd be a million more people who could back that one up. But I could flair, but I kept it to what looked crisp and clean and worked for the customer, because from a customer's perspective, you could come out with a 3 bottles and tin routine, or God knows what, 2 bottles and a tin, and do a big routine, or you could just do something with a Collins glass. They don't understand the complexities and difficulties between the levels of things that you're doing. And whereas you go to a flair competition, of course, the people there in the crowd, can appreciate innovation and creativity that's there, but your average punter doesn't. But they know when you drop it.
Exactly,
and I remember that. So my aim was always to don't drop it. But to keep push yourself where you can and do what you can, but just don't drop it, because they will remember that. They won't remember that you balanced a bottle on your nose whilst singing God Save the Queen. So it was for me, keep it within what I could do, but be efficient. So I really liked working for it. What I could do, I think of little things I could do whilst making strawberry daiquiri or something, because you got your daiquiri station there and your blender, and typical Flair moves that I would do that would work. I think the move that Vinnie Reed will always tell you he remembers for me was the bicep pull. I give it a whole sort of cheeky sort of little nod to whoever I was making a drink or to a brick girl at the bar, and that the bicep pull was the one he'll always remember me for doing, just because it was jamming kind of thing to do.
So what do you do you have any regrets, or with Friday, did you have anything that you regretted not doing in Fridays?
Well, I wanted to win best bar team, as I said before, when it got to the final, and I won, and that was fantastic. Really gave me an opportunity to do more. I mean, I went on to the European finals in Malta and the World finals in the Bahamas, which was...
So how did the when I saw that, I was like, that's quite cool. The Bahamas. I was like,
during spring break as well.
I think you just won already.
All expenses paid, and you were treated like a bit of a king, really. You're thinking just a guy throwing bowls around and making some drinks, but everyone was revered the bartender.
So let's go back a little bit. Let's go so you've just won the UKs. I mean, how do you feel about winning the UK best bartender?
It's weird, right? So there's a few things that all came together at the same moment. So I won best bartender, which is I felt elated for. We lost best bar team to Covent Garden, and that was what I wanted. So there was a crushing sense.
It's even worse that Covent Garden won as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was. It was. I think the team, if it had been anybody but Covent Garden, they'd have handled it better. But it was a crushing sense of, that's what I really wanted. But I got best bartender, brilliant. But Tom was meant to get that, right? So I've stolen his prize, and we didn't get the prize we're after. Tony got the best bartender, Rick got the best individual, Tony's best player. So we still did phenomenally well. But the next day, I was leaving to go and open the new store in Bath the very next day. Yeah. So I called all the guys to come and meet me in town. I got them all a bottle of rum, and we had a chat. And look, you're still the best bar team to me, and we achieved a fantastic amount, and you should all be really proud. But then I had to get on a train and spend the next couple of months living in a hotel room, training the team in Bath and opening that store. So I wasn't even around to sort of mop up the pieces, and so it was all a real whirlwind. While I was in Bath doing this training, I hadn't really thought ahead of what happens after when you win best bartender, because I was never planning to win best bartender. Yeah. And I got Ray Weeks going, right, okay, so mate, we've got the flights booked to Malta. What? I'm opening a new store. That's okay. I'll speak to Karen. We'll get you. You get a pass. You'll get a week off in the middle of opening a new store and train these guys to get on a plane and go to Malta. I'm just not really in the right headspace for this. Yeah. But okay, brilliant. This is a whole new.
So how did? Because obviously I don't know too much. What happened in Malta? Did you how'd you do?
I came second in Malta. Jay Tucker won. And what I felt with the Europeans and the World Finals is the competition is different to the UK.
Yeah,
it feels different. I don't know if you felt that when you went over, but there's a lot more emphasis on Flair, which is not my strongest part of my game.
Okay.
The food, you don't have the food tests. You said that's where you picked up points, and likewise for me. But the food differs in each country, so there was no food test to pick up points. Yeah. So it really came down to things like accuracy of pours, the speed test, service bar, and the front bar routine. And the guys I was competing against at the World Finals, they were proper 4 bottles juggling, and that wasn't ever in my repertoire. And I was never going to beat them on that. So I did a routine in the way that I would do it. I just kept it true to myself.
Was you pleased with what you did, or was you reckon?
No, 100%. I didn't win the World Finals, right? I was gutted at the European finals because I felt that my routine was good enough to win.
Yeah.
There. And so I was really disappointed. But and then I got the invite. Oh, you're off to the you're off to the World Finals in the Bahamas. I wasn't expecting that. It was another out of the blue. And okay, fine, I'll go for it. But I went into it knowing that it was going to be tough because this wasn't necessarily my strength. And I went into it and I had some personal issues going on at the same time. But I didn't win. I like when you said that you had some solace in that you were the second best in the country, right? And all these people you beat. Yeah. You know, I was like, I was at the World Finals. Right? Yeah. There was only 6 of us there, 7, 8 in the whole world. And Friday's operating in over 60 countries. There's hundreds, 500, 600 stores around the world. And I'm one of like half a dozen bartenders that's made here. Yeah. Like I won already. Right? I think
everyone would like to win the world, but I think, to be honest with you, I mean, we all know deep down inside what it takes to win the UK's, and I think when you look at
there was a fella there when I competed, Brian Zachow.
Yeah,
and he'd been in the world final. I don't know how many times, right? And you're thinking, right, this guy's been, he's made it to this point and hasn't won all these times, and I'm rocking up like not.
First time, yeah.
And there was, I think the guy that won was Yuki Aba from Japan, who was a really nice guy, but there was no English, so we couldn't communicate. There was some twins there that did a Flair routine. They enjoyed spring break. But it was just a phenomenal experience that I'll always treasure, and then Friday's gave me that opportunity.
Yeah, to get like
for a living, and they took me around the world.
Exactly, they paid for you to just go to the Bahamas. It's just like it's just incredible on that front. I mean, so as I said, it's nice to actually find out. I mean, even second in Malta, I mean, there's still an achievement. Was it like you had to be in the first 2 to qualify for the world?
No. So it wasn't. Jay won. Jay goes to the world finals, right? So I already know one person who's going to the world finals. Yeah. And I came second. But the guys that were judging it were some of the CEOs for Colson restaurants, and they were so impressed by my routine that they were like, "We want this guy at the Bahamas." So because they were so impressed with what I did in my routine, I got a ticket to the Bahamas.
That's amazing.
And that's it. Well, not because they have a wild card. They were like, "No, we'll create a wild card position because we want this guy. He was good."
Did you think there would be a reason that you could actually like win it then at that stage? Because
I guess so. But having experienced the sort of different differences from the European competition, and knowing that my Flair wasn't going to be to the strength of some of these Vegas boys that were going to be competing. I was going to have to rely on my strengths in terms of the banter, in terms of the magic, in terms of the little tricks, and hope that my working and exhibition Flair was enough to impress the judges. But I don't know how I got on with the front bar routine compared to the other routine. I can't remember whether or not I blew it on the speed round.
Did you do just a solid front bar, or did you do any magic tricks? Or
so I had my little, I had my disappearing Budweiser bottle, which people's faces when I did that was a complete picture. Because it's one of those ones where you set it up and you sort of fail it twice, and the third time it goes right. It's a deliberate kind of like lead into it, and so by the third time when it goes right, and people just literally. They go to gog, their jaw drops, and I remember the judges just being so like, "What just happened?"
What's this happened?
It was worth its weight in gold. That trick.
Oh, that's cool. Right, so here we go. Some quick fire round questions. Okay, so obviously favourite trick, Budweiser, I guess.
Budweiser bottle, yeah.
Okay. Did you invent any like Fridays prank game? Flair move? Did you bring in, anything that you reckon you'll probably still be doing, in the future, like a prank that you used to always do on people or something?
Ones that I can talk about, probably not. Some of the games that I used to get people to do during shift, like I mentioned, the Saturday night dance night, things like that were things I think I will be remembered for.
Whitney Houston rules, yeah.
Whitney Houston.
All the way. Favorite Friday's food?
Potato skins. I make my own potato skins now. It's the only thing from Fridays I make, but I love them.
Favorite Friday's drink?
I can't say my own cocktail. That'd be very pretentious. So I liked creamy drinks and ice cream drinks. Not very masculine bartender, but a Bailey's comic would go down a treat for me.
Nice, cool. Service bar or front bar?
I loved the service bar because of the challenge, trying to beat that machine and be better and to get all the way through it. And so, especially the Haymarket service bar, a lot of intense moments in that box. But nothing beats working with people. And so the front is going to have to be the front bar. And if you're working with a team of people that you just trust intimately and you get on with, there's no better feeling than that.
No, that's good. Have you got a favourite joke or a favourite quote?
Time from time, I have stood on the bar and done the old cocktail poem. I've done that in one time. But there was, but the people always talk to you about cocktail, the film as a bartender, right? I remember this American couple came into Haymarket once, and I was doing some Flair, and this woman leaned over the bar and she said, "Hey," excuse my American accent, but like, "Hey, you're not as good as that Tom Hanks, are you?" And I looked at her. I was like, "Really? And what was that?" And her husband was just like, face palm. Oh God! You're gonna insult somebody, get it right.
This is brilliant. Oh, that's so cool. I just got. Do you know what? I was actually going. I need to get a joke just in case you didn't get one. And I got one here. It was going. Yesterday, I saw a guy spill all his Scrabble letters on the road. What's the word on the street?
Oh God!
I thought I've got to have something just in case. So actually, the next question was cocktail the film. Love it or hate it?
Oh, I love it. Loved it. I first watched it when I was at Via Vita. And I was like, "What is this? This is amazing!" And I want to do what they do. And of course, you look back now and you look at the flair of the guys, and you think, actually, it's really basic. It's really bad, and there's a lot of spillage going on. But you didn't know any better, and it was phenomenal. And you want to be that guy. You want to live that life. You want to have that party lifestyle. And I guess I did.
I think when you see Tom Cruise does the turquoise blue, you see the overpour, and you're like, I think you've got 2 drinks in that one.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
I mean, all the little throwbacks to Fridays and that, the waitresses, they've got Friday stripes on, not braces, but got Friday stripes on, and all those little things you can pick up. But it was a great film, and I've watched it God knows how many times. We've done various drinking games while watching it, and I'm now at the point of opening my own business. So I've lived that party lifestyle. I've been through the mill, and
they should have the cocktail board game where you have like Flanagan sayings and stuff like this, and it'd be just like, it's just so good. That'd be so awesome. So, but yeah, did you have any nicknames?
Well, I was Jono, so that was
that's enough.
The name I went by, everybody knew who I was. I did I went on as the Don Jono from my front bar routine to the Godfather music. That was quite funny. But did you wear the trilby
when you come on and stuff like that?
I did actually, yeah. I
think I remember that. I
did one as Neo as the Matrix as well. Like, it was that little 30-second entrance. You want to set the scene and do something, don't you?
Yeah. Cool. Most famous person you've served?
Goodness me. Well, I mean, Fridays gave me the opportunity to do some TV stuff as well. I remember that you went on TV with Andy Burke, didn't you, and did the Generation
Whole
Game.
Generation Game, yeah.
And I also did a similar thing from being a bartender at Haymarket. So I went on to, there was something called the 24-hour quiz, which was like a Big Brother kind of thing. They're all locked in a house, and then they could be woken up at any point and have to do a quiz and win prizes. And I went on and made some drinks and talked about the drinks I was making and to answer questions and what I'd done. And I went on the salon, and they had there was John O'Coleman, there was Vanessa Phelps, and all these people. I remember I was just in the background making drinks for them, and they all wanted Diet Coke and stuff. I'm like, I'm here to throw some bottles around and stuff. And the producers were like, right, just do some Flair. And of course, the one bit of Flair that they get in they keep in the whole show is where I drop a glass on the floor. I was like, are you kidding me? And the guys at work never let me hear the end of it. Like, you get your chance on TV, what do? You flop it.
Oh, this is brilliant. Oh, well, I'd say, like, again, I mean, it's been absolutely such a blast to take a trip down memory lane with you. And I say, like, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how will they get in touch?
Well, you find me on Facebook. I'm just about to open my own business. We are opening a cafe in Bristol called Via Lactea. So this is now my new dream. Like with mixology, you know, baristas can be very passionate about what they do, and we've always had passion in terms of drinks and cocktails, and the coffee world is a very, very similar kind of passion and intensity to it, and it's something that I've done. I spent over 8 years at Cafe Nero, and now I'm going to do it myself. So my own coffee shop's coming up, and that'll be opening in the summer of 2021.
So do you still introduce, like, the Fridays ways into how you run your business?
It's these things are very much there. The theories and philosophies and the ways of working, the training styles, Fridays has given me so much over the years, and that I still use today, and that we'll always use because they work. They really work.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. My name's Rob Stevens. This is Legend in Bartending, and we have the great